You didn't used to shop like this. There was a time when buying something meant you needed it. A new pair of shoes because the old ones wore through. Groceries because the fridge was empty. Practical. Purposeful. Clean. But somewhere in the last few years, something quietly shifted. Now you open a shopping app at 11 p.m., not because you need anything. You open it because the day was hard. Because the meeting went long. Because you sat in traffic for 45 minutes and by the time you got home, something inside you needed relief. And for a few minutes, just a few, scrolling through things you might buy gave you exactly that. The strange part isn't that you do it. The strange part is that it works. Not forever, not deeply, but in that moment, the cortisol drops just enough. The decision fatigue softens. The anxiety loosens its grip slightly, and you feel something that functions neurologically almost identically to calm. This is the thing nobody is talking about. Retail therapy isn't just a joke we make about ourselves. It's a coping mechanism. A legitimate biochemical, psychologically structured coping mechanism. And modern commerce has been engineered down to the pixel level to exploit exactly that.
And the cost of it isn't just what's leaving your bank account. The real cost is something far more expensive. Think about what a $200 monthly habit actually represents over time. Not just $2,400 a year, though that's already real money. If that $2,400 were invested annually at a 7% average annual return, in 20 years it becomes roughly $98,000. Nearly $100,000. Gone. Not spent on anything that lasted. Spent on the momentary sensation of relief. That's what emotional spending actually costs. Not the number on the receipt. The number it would have become. But before we talk about the money, we need to understand something deeper. Because the spending isn't really the problem. The spending is the symptom. And the actual condition, the thing driving the behavior, is something most people never name. Modern professional life has quietly become one of the most sustained stress environments in human history. Think about what a typical workday actually looks like now. You wake up, and before you've had coffee, your phone has already delivered 12 things that require a response or a decision.
You commute, either physically, through traffic and packed trains, or mentally, from bedroom to laptop in 30 seconds, with no psychological transition between personal and professional. You spend 8, 9, 10 hours making decisions, managing relationships, absorbing other people's urgency. You perform competence constantly. You suppress frustration. You smile through things that genuinely exhaust you. And then the workday ends. But the nervous system doesn't get that memo. The stress response that kept you sharp through the afternoon meeting doesn't just switch off. It lingers. It sits in your chest and makes your shoulders tight and your thoughts circular. And your body, your ancient mammalian body that was never designed for this kind of chronic low-grade pressure, starts looking for a way out. Here's what's important. Your nervous system doesn't want therapy. It doesn't want a journal. It wants something fast. Something that produces a result immediately. A dopamine hit. A sense of agency. A small, controllable win in a day that often felt out of control. And shopping delivers all of that. The moment you add something to a cart, your brain processes it as acquisition, as winning, as a small, satisfying completion in a day full of incompletions. The neuroscience
is surprisingly clear on this. The anticipation of reward, not even the reward itself, triggers dopamine release. Which means the browsing is actually the drug. The purchase is almost secondary. This is where the psychology becomes really uncomfortable to sit with, because it means the relief you feel isn't really about the object. It's about the act, the choosing, the deciding. the moment of agency in a life where agency often feels constrained. And once you understand that, everything about modern consumer culture starts to look different. Go back 20 years, before one-click purchasing, before same-day delivery, before the algorithm learned which products to show you based on your browsing patterns, your location, the time of day, even your emotional state inferred from what you've been searching. Before companies hired behavioral scientists specifically to reduce what they call friction, the tiny moments of hesitation that might stop a purchase from completing. Friction was protective. Friction was the walk to the store in the rain, the waiting 3 to 5 business days, the slightly inconvenient return policy. Friction gave your prefrontal cortex, the rational, future-oriented part of your brain, enough time to intercept the emotional impulse and ask, do I actually want this? That friction has been systematically removed by design, by hundreds of millions of dollars of research aimed at getting you to buy before your rational brain catches up. And we wonder why emotional spending has become a cultural epidemic. Here's a number that reframes the whole thing. The average American household now spends somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 per month on what could loosely be categorized as discretionary consumption. Things that aren't rent, aren't utilities, aren't groceries in the strictest sense. Subscriptions, dining out, impulse purchases, lifestyle upgrades. The occasional online cart that got checked out at midnight. When you add it up, it's significant.
Now, imagine redirecting even $500 of that monthly. Just $500. Not all of it, not an extreme lifestyle overhaul. $500. Invested consistently at a 7% annual return over 30 years, that $500 a month becomes approximately $566,000. More than $500,000, though quietly in the background while life continues. That's what the emotional spending habit is costing, not in guilt or shame, but in actual future freedom. In the difference between working because you want to at 58 and working because you have to. But here's what makes this genuinely difficult. And this is the part that most financial content gets completely wrong. Telling someone to simply stop emotional spending is like telling someone with chronic back pain to simply stand up straighter. Technically true. Functionally useless. Because the spending isn't irrational. It's rational given what it's solving for. It's solving for stress relief, for emotional regulation, for the sensation of control. And until you give the nervous system something else that solves for those same things with similar speed and accessibility, the spending isn't going anywhere. This is why every Stop Buying Things challenge fails. Not because people lack discipline, because discipline isn't the right tool for an emotional need. There's a concept in behavioral economics called present bias.
The very human tendency to dramatically overvalue what's available right now compared to what's possible later. A guaranteed $50 today versus a likely $100 in 6 months, most people take the 50. Not because they're bad at math, because the present feels vivid and real, and the future feels abstract and uncertain. Emotional spending is present bias in its purest form. The relief is real and immediate. The $566,000 is theoretical and distant. And your nervous system, the part that's actually making the decision in that moment, doesn't have a strong relationship with theoretical and distant. This is also why income doesn't fix it. This is the thing that genuinely surprises people. The thing that's uncomfortable to admit, but important to understand. Lifestyle inflation is real, and it follows income almost exactly. A person earning $45,000 a year uses shopping to manage stress. They get a raise to $65,000. The stress level actually increases because the job that pays more also demands more. The stakes feel higher. The pressure compounds. And because they now have more disposable income, the emotional spending simply upgrades. Instead of a $30 impulse purchase, it becomes
becomes a $150 one. Instead of fast fashion, it becomes mid-range. The behavior doesn't change. The price point does. Get to $90,000 and the spending becomes $400 weekend getaways that feel earned. Get to $130,000 and it becomes business class upgrades and luxury skincare and a car payment that is, objectively, too high relative to actual net worth.
The spending grows to fill the income, almost always, and the anxiety doesn't go away. It just gets more expensive to manage. Here's what that trajectory actually costs over a career. Someone who earns $65,000 at 30 and reaches $130,000 by 45, but maintains lifestyle inflation throughout, might end their career with a net worth of $200,000 to $300,000, despite having earned over $1.5 million in total income. Meanwhile, someone who recognized the pattern at 35 redirected $1,000 a month into index funds while keeping their lifestyle roughly stable, builds somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000 by that same age. Same income bracket. Wildly different outcomes. The only variable is where the emotional spending money went. Income